Hey guys, this is Claudio Giuliano here, and today I am coming at you with this new video, and today we are going to do an overview of iOS 11. So I wanted to basically break down the software for you. I wanted to show you what has changed because iOS 11 is a really big one for iPad and iPad Pro, and it's really transformative all around. And we are going to pretty much break down everything that you need to know. We're going to also come at it from the standpoint of how we would use this in professional workflows in various ways, especially, of course, for the creative professional. So, iOS 11, let's get into it. Okay, so there's two things you're going to notice right off of the bat. One is we are actually recording directly here on the iPad Pro, and that is because screen recording is now baked into iOS 11. And this is something I always wanted, and I'm really glad to see that here. This is great for demos like we're doing today, and then this is also great for various different use cases. For example, lessons, for example, comparing and contrasting softwares, demos, all that good stuff. So we don't have to jump through a hoop. We don't have to plug the iPad into a Mac just to record the screen. Screen recording is now built into iOS 11. And then the second thing you're going to notice is, of course, the dock. And the dock is a core feature of iOS 11, and it's one of the hubs in terms of how you will use the iPad going forward in terms of multitasking. So the dock is a key part of that, and what you're seeing is Apple's bringing over features from macOS, and they're implementing them into iOS and vice versa. And when I think it's important to remember that macOS and iOS are built off of the same core, so they share the same core foundation. So it makes sense that these things would come over here, and pretty much it's the dock that you would know and use from the Mac, from Mac OS. So it functions in the same way. Now, and this is kind of the direction I've always saw the iPad going. This is, even if I go back to 2010 and think about way back when it first came, I always saw the iPad going in this direction. So the interactions and the way that iOS 11 is set up is very much set up for professional workflows. It's set up for the production aspect of computing. And that's what I want to get into, and I want to start showing you how the system works. So we're opening up Paintstorm Studio right now. Okay, we have Paintstorm open. I just want to switch my workspace. Cool. Okay, we have Paintstorm open. And I want to go over a use case scenario. Now, this was interesting because when I first put iOS 11 on the 9.7, I was noticing that my muscle memory kept kicking in, and I kept hitting the home button. So I'm just finally starting to get out of that old kind of trapped in the maze feeling, and I'm just starting to get rid of that muscle memory, and I'm just starting to get used to the streamline of how the system works now. Okay, so let's say we're working here, right? And we're working away, and we start thinking in our head, okay, I need to study something, I need a reference image, I need to do some analyzation of something, I need to look at something. Now, in the past, what would happen is you'd basically have to hit the home button, you'd have to go to the home screen, and you'd have to open up whatever you were going to get into, and then you had a bunch of steps that you had to take to get in and out. Or you had to double tap the home button to get in and out of your softwares. So if we needed to pull up a reference image or some type of information, what we're going to do is we're going to simply swipe up from the bottom of the screen, and that's going to pull up our dock. You also have a keyboard shortcut for this. You can hit Option Command D, and then it will show the dock and hide it. And for this use case, I want to open up the browser because I want to pull up a reference image of Alf. Now, I did a Google search before for Alf, and we have images pulled up. And now I'm going to go on that image. And now I am looking at this image of our alien friend Alf, and now I'm just looking at him, and I want to float back into Paintstorm. We're going to swipe up from the bottom of the screen. That's going to let us access the dock, and we're going to float right back into Paintstorm. Okay? We want to go back. We do the same function, and we're right back in the browser. So we're getting a true multitasking experience, and the dock is functioning how you would, if you were familiar with how this dock functions in Mac OS, it's functioning in the same way. And you can float in and out of your softwares. So this really changes the core way, use case and the core functionality of how you would interact with iPad in the past. So it gets rid of that. It's starting to get rid of that kind of legacy operation, and now in place is something just much more intuitive and much more functional. So we can just simply switch back and forth, and this is a great thing, and it's very streamlined. And then it goes a step further, because then what we can do is, when we want, what we can do is we can float software. So for example, I'm going to long press a little bit here on the browser, and I'm going to pull it into our environment here. Okay, and I'm going to float it on top of what we're doing. Now we have the browser, which is fully functional, okay, floating on top of the environment that we are working in. And I want to go in and further inspect this. I can zoom in, so we have, full browser functionality. If I do need to access something else, I can get right to anything I want. Okay. And then, of course, this is great if we want to float this window and have this open for a reference as we work. And, of course, we can still work in our whatever environment that we are in. Now, this is also very functional, and it works very well. Now, there used to be a swipe in from the right gesture, and that used to bring in a panel of applications, and then you could shoot into split screen multitasking. That's basically wiped out of iOS 11. It doesn't work like that anymore. You can float this window around and place it wherever you want, and then when you want to get it out of the way, you simply swipe it over to the right and it'll disappear. And then you can go back into working. If you do need to access that again, you swipe it right in, and it's going to come in where it left off. So very easy to get it out of the way, very streamlined. Works well. And then, of course, it goes a step further, because when you swipe down on this tab here, that is going to let you enter split screen multitasking. And of course, you can resize this to whatever fits for you. And you have your split screen multitasking. If you want to come out of it, swipe down and the window will float again. Okay? Now, we can also come in, float another app in, and it functions in the same way. So if we were going to float in Twitter, we have Twitter here, and boom. We want to swipe it out of the way, we swipe it out of the way. Now the cool thing is, which brings us to the next part, if we do a long swipe up, that's going to give us our app switching view. And as a matter of fact, I want to open up some more stuff independently to show you how this works. So, okay, when we do that swipe up, or you can double tap the home button, that'll bring you here. What you'll see is you're getting your control center functionality here, and this is where I have a shortcut for screen recording, and we have our stuff open. Now, if we go into Twitter, we're going to go back into Twitter, and we can switch applications like that if we want to use the app switcher. And of course, we can close this stuff out when we long press on it. But what I want to show you is when we go back here, and if we pull Twitter in, if we do happen to go back out and need to do something else, let's say, for example, access the browser, and then we go into our app switcher, what you'll see is if we go to Twitter, it's going to bring the floating window open. So the window stays open. Now, if we go to Twitter again, as you can see, the window's floating in Paintstorm. So the floating window has functionality, and I believe with the newer hardware, and I believe with the 12-inch iPad Pro and the 10.5-inch, I believe you can float more than one app. I believe you can split screen more than one app, and have multiple things going on. Now, like I said, when you want to get it out of the way, you simply get it out of the way. So you have the dock. You have your standard switching of applications and softwares. You have the ability to float your windows in. You have the ability to float your windows in. You have the ability to move it and get it out of the way. So when you combine all those use cases, it's great for professional workflows. It really changes the dynamic of how you would use the iPad Pro. It's great stuff. And basically what it does is it really starts to transform the system all around. Now, what I want to do is I want to go into some deeper functionality in terms of the system, and then I want to talk about specific softwares. Like today, I want to also go back here into Paintstorm, and I want to talk about version 2.0, which is what we're in now, and I want to talk about some of the great things that's going on here. There's also some small advancements for Apple Pencil in iOS 11 that I want to show you. And then I want to talk about two other really fantastic softwares that I'm really excited about, and I think you guys will enjoy seeing how they work and what they're all about. But the next segment, I want to get into more core functionality of the system. So that's what we're going to get into next. Okay, so let's get into the deeper functionality here. Now, we have multitasking streamlined for this, for the production aspect of working, and then this is what really ties it in and changes the way you will work with the system. And that is two things. One, the ability to have drag and drop, and two is the file system. With iOS 11, we now have access to the file system, and we have access to everything that's on our system. So the first thing I want to do is I want to show you drag and drop, and then I'll show you various use cases of how one would use drag and drop for a professional workflow. So first, I want to go into the Files app, and this is basically the file system here. Okay, you have access to third-party locations. For example, I have OneDrive there. We have iCloud Drive here. And then we have our native hard drive here. And then if you look here, you have this little plus folder here. I'm sure when this updates and everything is compatible for the full release, you'll be able to actually make your custom folders. Because if we go to iCloud Drive here, you'll see what we have the ability to do is make our own custom folders. So this is great. And this is a very streamlined file system here. It's very easy to access everything. Very easy to have your stuff backed up to the cloud. They brought over the tag feature from Mac OS, and you have a streamlined file system here, which is something we never had. You had third-party stuff, but none of them really worked in this nature. So this is a great thing, and I want to show you kind of a use case here. So for example, if I go down to these art files, let's say I needed to grab these files and I needed to take them into something else, whatever that may be. If I wanted to move them into a folder, if I needed to get them out into another software, or whatever that may be, I want to show you how the actual function works of drag and drop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down and I'm going to drag. Now I'm dragging what I need. If I want to make multiple selections, I'm going to tap on the other files here that I want to tap on, and I can keep tapping away, and we can drag this wherever we need. So for example, if I back up here, if I needed to put something in a folder, for example, I could then go and get that in the folder there. Now you can imagine this scenario being awesome for if you need to send files to your clients. This is probably how you're going to do that if you need to start organizing files for your customers and things like this. Drag and drop is huge to have here on iOS 11, and this along with how the system, the core system now functions, and how it kind of rids that old way of working. This transforms the iPad. This definitely transforms the iPad Pro. This is very, very good stuff, and Apple did a great job here. I'm very impressed. And the other thing about this drag and drop stuff is it's very elegantly done. It's so easy. It's so easy to just start actually visually organizing your files here. And this is just a really cool implementation of drag and drop. And of course, such a huge, important feature to have in professional workflow. Okay, so that is one of the main use cases of how you would use drag and drop. And then I want to show you another situation in another way. Now let's say, well actually, see, I just hit the home button. That is a muscle memory thing where I didn't need to hit the home button. The muscle memory just has me instantly hitting the home button when I actually don't need to do that. So let's swipe up, and let's say I want to shoot out an email, right? Let's say I want to shoot out an email, and let's say I need to get some images sent over to a client, or you can picture the scenario for many things. Let me float the browser in here, and we have that image of Alf. Now, I would like to actually go back, and I would like to actually go to the images and see a bunch of images of Alf. And now what I want to do is I want to drag these, and I want to actually drop these right in. So I'm going to long press a bit, and I'm going to start dropping these images of our awesome cat-eating alien friend into this email, and I'm going to shoot off an email to someone, and they're going to get a bunch of images of our alien friend Alf here, and they are quite hilarious, actually. Okay, now, but I think we get the point here. In terms of what we can actually do with how the drag and drop functionality works. So now you can imagine this for various various situations here. So you can picture this in terms of client files. You can picture this in terms of sending off mock-ups and sending up various mock-ups to a client. Or, of course, if you're just emailing with a friend, whatever this may be, the drag and drop functionality is streamlined and built right in, and it's really good stuff. So when you combine it with the file system and how everything is working together here, it really changes the way that you will use the system, and it's very cool stuff. So now, those are some of the core functions, and that's not everything. And of course, more is going to be built in the fall. And I could keep showing you stuff, but those are the core functionalities that really start transforming the system, and it's very cool stuff. Apple did a great job. And the next thing I want to do is segue into software, because that's going to tie everything in terms of seeing it in terms of the big picture, and that will tie everything in when we combine what's going on with our professional softwares, and then how the system works. I think that'll be revealing to how this big picture plays out. So I want to just quickly show you some of the improvements that have come over in terms of the Apple Pencil. I definitely didn't expect to see any improvements here, but the system is better interpreting forced data. And I noticed that when I started working with, one of my dynamic and responsive, not responsive, one of my dynamic inkers, which I specifically designed for fine detail. And I was never able to really capture exactly what I wanted with the curve here. And I see a really nice correction in the curve in terms of the very small detail. So this, for example, my custom inker here is dynamic, and it kind of follows how your hand would implement techniques for various techniques in terms of inking. So it always did the very fine detail well, but it just didn't quite get there 100%. And now, with what I see improved here, now I feel that the brush is working exactly how I always wanted it. So let me just demo this here for you. So as you can see, with this very small detail on the very small end of things, we are getting the full pressure dispersion. And this is awesome. And then all around I feel a lot of improvement here. I feel some improvement with fluidity, and then of course I definitely feel the improvement on the pressure, because what would happen is when I was going in for this fine detail, when I would let off of the stroke, we would have some weirdness on the tail ends and we'd get a bit of blowout. And then also when I would actually start going to lay it down, I would somewhere along the line get a bit of weirdness in terms of the pressure curve at these small sizes. And all around, I just feel a really nice improvement in the way that the pencil feels, in the way that the pressure dispersion feels. It's very good stuff. So that little, whatever they did, whatever tweak they did in terms of how the system interprets the forced data, it really helped in terms of the pressure dispersion and curve. So I was excited to see that, because I definitely didn't even expect to see any improvements there just from software alone. So very cool stuff. And while we're in here, we might as well segue into Paintstorm Studio version 2.0. And so I just wanted to quickly talk about what's going on in 2.0. So I've been working with these guys for the past year. They're really cool guys. They work very hard. We've come up with a lot of ideas to improve the software, and they're constantly improving it. And so I'm happy to report in version 2.0, the software is fully stabilized. It doesn't crash anymore. And this is awesome, because now you can just work and enjoy working, and you're not going to lose your stuff. So that's the most important thing. And we did that by coming up with a memory purging system on top of calculating the available memory. And now, as you can see, we also have other softwares open, and we're working on the limited memory of the 9.7-inch iPad Pro. However, no matter how low you go here with this memory meter that's built in, no matter how low it goes, it will not crash on you. I've tested it in depth. So it's definitely not going to crash on you. So you have major improvements here in terms of Paintstorm Studio. I just want to show you some of the things built in. You get these cool gradient sliders now. You can go down to performance. You now have a performance area. You can turn down your history states, turn down your history memory, and you can tweak all this stuff to get better performance here. If you go down to OpenGL, we still have those set in, and now it will show you what we're working with here. And then you now have multi-touch gestures built in. 2-finger action, 3-finger actions that you can set. This is awesome. Fluidity is very good for pinch to zoom and 2-finger rotate. And all around, version 2.0 is just doing a great job. And the main thing is it's stable. Now, if you wanted to open something, you'll get this warning here. You don't have to worry about it. They're just doing that as a formality. The software doesn't crash. If you go, now you actually get visual representation of all your work here through thumbnails. So you can actually see all the stuff you have saved natively. This is very nice and great. And I'm sure in the future with iOS 11, when Paintstorm updates, we'll see them take advantage of the actual file system now and all that stuff. But the main thing is the software doesn't crash while you're working. It doesn't crash when you're saving. So, you know, it's just awesome. And you know, if you're familiar with Paintstorm now, if you started using it, or even if you don't, Paintstorm Studio is just one of the most incredible softwares for painting and illustration. That the dynamic user interface here, the amazing engines that mimic the analog. Okay, the next two softwares I want to show you that are awesome, I'm really happy they're here, are Affinity Photo and Luma Fusion. So Affinity Photo is full-blown image editing and design software. This, if you're familiar with Affinity's product suite, Affinity Designer, Affinity Photo, they make incredible software. And like the Paintstorm guys, these are the kind of the new school developers who are just bringing forth major innovation in terms of what they're doing in software. So Affinity Photo is something that you would compare to Photoshop, and it's something you would replace Photoshop with. And it has a lot of features in it that are unique to just it in the way that they work and the way that they're implemented. So they bring forth a strong level of innovation, much like what Paintstorm does for painting and illustration. Now, Paintstorm and Affinity Photo are very different mantras of software and for very different use cases. For example, I personally wouldn't find myself drawing, painting, or sketching in Affinity Photo, but you know, it's not like Paintstorm in engines and in what you can do with brushes and all that stuff. Okay, guys, so I want to get into Affinity Photo, and you know, I'm going to do a separate video on all these softwares, but I want to just show you some things here now to kind of tie everything in together with the system and how the system works for that big picture. So Affinity Photo is incredible software, and if you are familiar with the software, this is the full-blown professional version, full desktop version here, running and of course designed for iPad Pro. And what they pulled off here is a major level of innovation. Now, this is a software you would compare to Photoshop or replace Photoshop with, and it's incredible. And the you know, they are also known for their software Affinity Designer, and they make great software. And it's amazing that what the Serif people pulled off here, because they pulled off some major innovation. And they're part of this new school of developers who are truly innovating and doing really amazing work in terms of what they are doing in development. So what they have similar and in common with the Paintstorm guys is they bring forth a new level of innovation. They do things uniquely. They do their own things. They invent their own ideas from the ground up. So you know, they're doing incredible work. It's really cool stuff. So let's talk about what this is all about. And I want to start by creating an image. And again, this is their full software brought over here. And so this wouldn't be my cup of tea for painting and illustration. So it's very much focused in terms of image editing, image manipulation and design. So it's a great image editing and design software. This is great for photographers, great for designers. Not what I would illustrate and paint in, but I could see plenty of people enjoying that. Now, these deep features that it is giving are unique to it on this platform. So you have your print press ready stuff, you have your color profiles, all the stuff that's important for the professional workflows, all the stuff in their desktop version here. If we go down to photo, you can see we can get the P3 display color gamut in there. But here's what's amazing. Let's plug in an 18 by 24. This is 300 DPI. Keep in mind. Let's see what happens. Boom. We now have an 18 by 24 at 300 DPI open. And this is incredible. And this is their user interface. This is amazing. And I'm going to show you how this performs, because this is going to, this is, basically reveals how powerful the iPad Pro's hardware is. So first, I just want to really quick do a UI comparison, just to kind of show you what I mean when I say a static UI versus a dynamic UI. Well, this was something that didn't exist in terms of before Paintstorm, but we got to show it. So this is a static UI. Within it, nothing is responsive, nothing is dynamic, nothing is scalable. That's cool, because this is one of my favorite UIs too, and I love how this UI works. But I want to show you the differences, because this is telling as to, with what Paintstorm does, to pull off a dynamic and responsive user interface like this takes a lot of stuff to do that, a lot of resources, and again, this is another area showing you how powerful iPad's hardware is. It's incredible stuff. But the mantra is quite different in terms of UI, because when we scale something up here, it is responsively and dynamically changing on the fly as we scale it. We can actually scale things however we want. We could do this for every part of the software, and then we can do it globally for the entire software. So Paintstorm actually needs more resources to run, and because it's dynamic and responsive, it uses more memory. That's one of the major differences. This dynamic and responsive user interface is extremely innovative and pretty much one of a kind. And that is pretty much one of the major differences. And this is a static UI, but this UI is incredible as well, and it's very sleek, very good, and it works great. I just wanted to compare and contrast the mantra difference there in terms of user interface, and let me show you what this pulls off here, because it's very, very cool, very impressive. So like I said, this is everything. These are all the tools that you would be presented with on the desktop. And of course, they have tools that go above and beyond what you would find in Photoshop in certain ways. For example, indestructible filters that are non-destructible. In other words, you get to preview the filter and what it will do to the image and how it will look before it goes on. You have great text functionality. You have your entire history that will be right there for you to see. You have your navigator. You have layers with no limitations here with iPad Pro. You have your color. You have your personas up here. You have your brushes and all your brush stuff, your shapes, your vector tools. And one of the things that they're really known for is their vector tools. They have this amazing vector engine with amazingly fluid Bezier curve editing ability. So I can't wait for Affinity Designer to come, and that is also coming. They're bringing the whole suite here. So this is very exciting stuff. Now, let's go to the paint brushes. Again, even though this is not something I would paint in, but this is something I would work with in a mixed media way. So if I was working with the pen tool here, for example, right, and I decided, because I work both ways. I work vector a lot of the time, and I also work raster a lot of the time. And I work with a traditional vector. Um, um, I work in the traditional vector format of pen tool and building with shapes. So if I were to mix and match that, and then let's say, ink and color in that way, and then I could take my brushes and then, add dynamic textures and effects and shade and render. That's probably how I would use this stuff here. But either way, I want to show you something just incredibly impressive. So again, keep in mind this is a 18 by 24 at 3800 dpi. This would make most systems crumble, especially portable systems. Check this out. And also keep in mind this is a 300 plus pixel brush. Okay, the assistant thing is cleared out. Check this out. Now, of course, we're not set up for iOS 11, so there's some funky bugs and stuff going on. But I've tested it thoroughly and in depth for iOS 10, and it is amazingly fluid in pretty much every way. Check out this performance here. 18 by 24 at 300 dpi, and we're getting no lag. And then when you think about what this hardware actually is, how it's less than a pound, how thin and light it is, you can take it pretty much anywhere with you. It's probably the thinnest tablet out there, I believe. And then also, I would also believe that it's probably the lightest. And then, of course, you think about your battery life and how you're getting true all-day battery life, and working on this piece here would not drain your battery life. It's so powerful when you really think about it. It's just extremely impressive. And when I start seeing something like an 18 by 24 at 300 dpi with no lag, and when I look at this big picture of the iPad Pro, the pencil, and how everything works now with iOS 11, I can't help but start thinking that this is the future. It's just something that I can't help but see, because I mean, this is very, very powerful stuff. And of course, you can actually rotate this, flip it into portrait mode, and work that way, so you have versatility, and your keyboard shortcuts do work here. For example, here I'm doing undo with the keyboard right now. Affinity Designer has brought forward a major level of innovation, much like the Paintstorm guys, and it's incredible to see this here. Incredible to see, but extremely transformative when you combine iOS 11 and now how the system works. Okay, guys, I want to talk to you very quickly about Luma Fusion. I can't go too long because I don't want to go past this time limit here. Luma Fusion is professional video editing software for iOS. Especially works great with iPad Pro and iOS 11 with the workflows here. And I think this is pretty game changing for video editing. And it's another thing that shows you how powerful iPad's hardware is, and how powerful it's been. But especially now with the new hardware and iOS 11, it just shows you how it's kind of in its own category, because it has abilities that really no other portable or mobile tool gives you, and it's very great. Now, this Luma Fusion is the video editing software that we've all wanted. It's comparable to Adobe Premiere, comparable to Final Cut. So here is our inception. We have keyboard shortcuts built in. I'm zooming in and out with the keyboard right now. Okay, here is our timeline. We have full editing ability. Here is our inception. We have all the features you would want. Luma Fusion is resolution independent, so when you pull in stuff, you're pulling in your actual native aspect ratios and things like this, and you can actually go in and plug in custom aspect ratios as well, as you see here. You have that per project as well. Color editing options, keyframes, slip editing, multiple audio tracks. You can export audio only if you want. Deep audio options here. Custom titles, which you can do from scratch, or you can work with their templates, and then also you can keyframe them and animate them through keyframing. And this is that's awesome. You can also keyframe various graphics and overlays and things like this. So a bunch of stuff for text and titles, and then a bunch of great transitions also, which you can keyframe. So I think you're kind of seeing it here. It's really, it goes deep. You can also change the interface up. The user interface works in portrait and landscape mode. You have various ways to get stuff in here, as you see. And then when you want to go in and do your deep editing, what you're going to do is you can double tap on the clip, or you could go to the toolbox here and you can hit edit. When you go to edit, you're brought up into this UI that gives you the deeper functionality. You can see we have the transition stuff here, which we can keyframe. That little plus button down there on the left, in the left-hand corner, is where you would start doing your keyframe stuff. So that is awesome. You can flip and mirror. You can fit. All this stuff that professionals need. And then you have your ability to speed and reverse, and this is fully functional. It's not like iMovie where you only get like a ×2 speed advantage bump. This allows you to do full speed increases and full reverse and all that stuff. It's awesome. Then of course you can edit audio per clip, and then one of the big ones is, of course, you have the ability to edit and customize your color of your video content. Brightness, contrast, saturation, red, green, blue, gamma, and hue, and tint. And then you have all this custom stuff baked right in. All these custom filters and effects. Awesome, cool, rad effects are built in here that you can take advantage of. Again, and these effects are also, you can also keyframe these effects, and you can work with the keyframing abilities, and then you can make your own effects as well. So it's deeply customizable. It has all the professional features you would want and need, and it has great export abilities as well. As you can see, audio only, project archive, a snapshot, and then of course when you export your movie, you have direct upload options, and then you have the Photos app. Now you can change the resolution. You could go up to 4K and beyond. Frame rate you can change. Video quality you can go to standard quality or extreme. Video and audio options here. You can do video only or video and audio. You can change your audio quality. Okay, very cool. And then your file format. You have the ability to export MPEG-4s or QuickTime MOV files, MOV files. Okay, you can also edit 360 video and VR, awesome. You can export that. And it's also going to tell you the size of the video. And exporting is fast. So when you are exporting, you have fast exports. So when you tie this all in, and when you think about when you really think about this hardware, when you think about how powerful this is, that you can do this here, it starts to change the game for video editing and professional video content creators, because what happens on a portable desktop system like a laptop 2-in-1 or whatever it may be, whatever that system is. What happens is it taxes the CPU and GPU. It makes the system heat up, it makes the fans go, and it drains the battery quickly, very quickly. with iPad Pro, it's the complete opposite when it comes to editing here. It doesn't drain your battery life. The system stays cold at all times, and it's so light and thin and so mobile. You can take it anywhere, and when you're editing, it's not going to feel like you have impending doom. You don't have to worry about the machine dying, and and I believe that changes the game. If you're someone who is traveling and you need to edit in a professional video editing environment, you have the ability to do that now with Luma Fusion, and I believe this gives you a new ability in terms of video editing, because you don't have to worry about your battery life dying quickly, and you don't have to worry about systems taxing, and of course you don't have to worry about taking up a lot of space with a big clunky laptop. You can take a 9.7-inch iPad Pro, and with the combination of Apple Pencil and the keyboard and touch, with that combination you can get one of the best video editing experiences I think you'll ever get. And this is my new favorite video editor. I love it. I just absolutely love it. Guys, that is going to wrap up today's video on iOS 11. I hope you enjoyed the video. I think when you look at everything tied in all together, I think that kind of shows us the big picture. I think it's it's no longer a glimpse into the future. We are now in the future. When we think about these professional full softwares being here already, and when we think about what's coming, I really think that the iPad Pro plays a big part in personal, mobile, portable computing. And I think this is one heck of a unique experience here with iOS 11. Now that the hardware and software are caught up to each other, it's really, really cool stuff. So guys, we'll have more videos on iOS 11 coming in the future. Of course, we have more reviews coming. We have software compares and contrasts and other demos. And of course, we have a new video coming that will show you guys a comparison of iPad Pro between the iPad Pro and MacBook Pro. And we're going to answer the question of, does iPad Pro replace a laptop? So guys, if you got use out of today's video, if you know someone who would, please share it with your friends. I would love if you like, comment, and subscribe. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.